In this video, we'll add geometry and dimensions to a drawing. After completing this step, you'll be able to use centerline, center mark, and add dimensions. In Fusion 360, we want to carry on with our blade guard assembly drawing. We now want to start to add some geometry and dimensions to our detailed drawing. The first thing that I want to do is I want to start by zooming in to our parent view. And I'm going to take a look at the geometry section, and I want to add a center line. To add a center line, we need to first select some references. In order to do that, it wants us to select edges. I'm going to select this upper edge and the bottom edge. I'm going to do the same thing on the bolt. And if I need to add any more, I can do the same thing by adding those upper and lower references. Once I've added all the center lines I need, I can hit Escape to get off the tool. We can also extend them out by going back and holding down the left mouse button on the gray arrowheads. If I need to do that here as well, I can drag it out all the way through the bolt. Once we've added those center lines, we can also use them to help us place dimensions. For example, if we go to our dimension tool, we can place a dimension from the center line to the top of the design. We can also place it to the bottom of the design, and we can place a dimension from the center line to the bottom of the design, and then we'll add an overall height dimension. Once again, the orientation of the dimensions is going to be based on the specific standard that you chose. I'm going to add a horizontal dimension at the top, and then I'm going to hit Escape to get off my dimension tool, and then I want to reposition some of these. If you have any dimensions that cross a center line or cross another dimension, we can always use some of the tools to reorganize. For example, I can put this below, and then I can use my dimension break tool to make sure that I don't have any overlapping dimension lines, and it makes the drawing a little bit cleaner to read. If I want to reposition, I simply need to select a dimension and manually move it into place. Once we're happy with those dimensions, let's also move on to geometry and adding center marks. Anytime there's a hole or a circular reference, it's a good idea to add a center mark. It helps with dimensioning, and in this case, it's going to allow us to see a little bit cleaner exactly where that center is. Once again, if we need to add any dimensions, we can do that by manually selecting the geometry. In this case, we'll go to the dimensions. I'll select the geometry, and now I'll add a diameter value, or I can add a radius value. If we have angular references, we can select those edges in the drawing, or we can select points for those references. For our drawing, there's not much that we need to add. I'm simply going to add a few of those notes and dimensions to make sure that we can identify and understand exactly where some of the geometry is. Whenever you're creating detailed drawings, it's important to identify what tools you have access to. So make sure that you check the geometry and dimension sections to see if there's something that you need to add to your detailed drawing. For now, let's make sure that we go back to a fit view and save this before moving on.